Hello.
Is it Bertalan Meskó?
Hello there.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. Yeah, so this is the last day of class for us.
Ooh.
And so there are 4 students here out of the 9, and they look very, very enthusiastic, and they're thinking of things to ask you. But you were going to tell us about your course, so why don't you tell us a bit about what happened? It's a little bit of a mysterious thing from our point of view, because our students made some tentative interactions with your students, but I think in the end nothing very concrete happened. So anyway, you want to tell us about how your course went?
Absolutely. First, it's great to be connected now, finally, at least virtually. Well, the course title is Disruptive Technologies in Medicine, and we are just about halfway through the course. At least 5 lectures left, because we finish on the 13th of May. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make it a really pilot course, which means that we wanted to open it up for maximum 15 students. Mm-hmm. But the secretary made a huge mistake, and it was opened up for 130, and therefore it wasn't really a pilot project, but students seem to be enjoying the course itself. We had guest speakers from many areas, and we have covered so far social media, robotics, bionics, optogenetics, plenty of the topics we discussed earlier. The students have a Facebook challenge, which means that there is a page on Facebook where students can compete for the bonus points. On that Facebook page, every single day, we publish a question about the topics we cover in the lectures. There are simpler questions, there are really complicated ones for more bonus points. And the first 3 students with the highest points, you'll be able to skip the exam. Mm-hmm. So now they are competing against each other. And the project, the collaboration with your students, well, that's why it's a pilot project. Now we learned many things throughout this journey, but although it's still not over, they still have over 5 weeks to come up with the final 2 minutes long presentation. And as we had a lecture today, many of them told me that actually they plan to present something in the end, although it was quite hard for them to find solutions for the topics we offered them in the first place. Mm-hmm. So what we learned 2 things. First, the topics they cover should be, those topics should be a bit simpler topics from many perspectives. And the second thing, I believe that I can help them create a good collaboration online with your students, but it seemed like there were some obstacles they had to face for some reason. For us, online communication is so simple, so easy, but it seems that some of them were first-year medical students, and they just couldn't find a way in the jungle of medical curriculum, not even collaborating with students from Canada. So I think myself, I can help them more the next semester. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty exciting. Still 5 weeks left, and the Facebook challenge is something. I believe that you might want to see, you might want to watch, because it's really exciting. Students come up with amazing answers for really complicated questions sometimes. And I believe that the Facebook page has become something like a textbook, a very short, practical textbook about the key topics that we cover in the lectures. So in a nutshell, that's where we are right now. And again, there are still 5 weeks left.
Right. So, it's kind of spectacular to think of your age and my age. So the thing that I'm known best for, the Banff classification, the first meeting occurred in 1991. Now, you were 6 at that time, right? You probably don't have a very concrete memory of 1991. I probably remember more of that year than you do. So tell me a little bit about how did you come to become so prominent in this field so young? I guess that it must be that in your country, one goes right from high school to MD training. Is that right? And that then the MD training's longer? Because here we would go from high school to, university first and then apply to medical school. And so you wouldn't really get your MD until you're like, 26 or something. So how does it work there? And how were you able to get where you are now at the tender age of, 29? How did that work?
Well, we leave high school at 18 and exactly we can start medical school right away because it contains all the preclinical subjects as well. And it takes 6 years to finish medical school, but then you only have the basic training. From that time, you can either start residency training, which takes from 5 to 10 years, depending on the specialty, or you start PhD. Well, from the age of 6, exactly from 1991, I knew that I wanted to become a doctor, to become a geneticist researcher. So by the time I didn't even finish medical school, I already started my PhD. I did research every day in the lab. And it means that in 3 years' time, so just in time doing my PhD, I could defend my thesis. And that way, at the age of 27, so 6 years after high school and 3 years after starting PhD, I fulfilled my childhood dream. But to be honest with you, I was absolutely not satisfied because from the first years of medical school, I've been quite active in social media. And what I saw was that if you come up with something truly innovative and useful, it can work if you have your online channels. But in research, it might take 10 years and it still might not even work like that. Therefore, even though from the age of 6 I wanted to be a scientist for my entire life, I made a very hard and brave decision after finishing PhD. And as there was no profession that in which I could somehow merge my two selves, one being devoted to science and research, and one being a geek, a real admirer of technologies, I felt like I had to invent my own profession. And that's how I have been becoming a medical futurist. It's been a really exciting journey. 2 years ago, it was like going down in a very dark cave. After 2 years of hard work, I think I have now a campfire down there. And some people started to follow me down there, so it's getting really great. But the key point now is I'm writing my second book, The Guide to the Future of Medicine, and this should be my real huge step in becoming a medical futurist. I have made plenty of steps. This May, my article in the Futurist magazine will be published, featured article about the future of medicine. But my book, what I'm writing right now, is the thing I'm pretty proud of. And this August it should come out, and it's gonna change plenty of things in my professional life, hopefully.
Yes. Well, the article in our main newspaper, the Edmonton Journal, that was written about this course on Saturday, mentions that we're the only course like this in the world, and that is not quite true because your course is somewhat similar to ours. But I mean, it is true that in the whole world there's only the two of us, and it's kind of cool that we have the opportunity to talk. So why don't I have these guys come up and ask you some questions. So their names are Anson, Corey, Keith, and Eric. So are one of you brave enough to start? Here comes Anson. So he'll ask you some questions.
Hi, Dr. Meskó, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Great.
So we've heard a lot about your course from Dr. Solez. And I'm just wondering, pretty much could you just summarize what kind of topics you touch on in your lectures to compare?
Great. Very great question, by the way. Well, we started with the very basics, exponential technologies, and what I want to transmit to students is not that, well, these are the most important trends about the future of medicine, but my mission is to give them a skill set based on which they will be able to make their own assumptions in their professional lives. So we started with the basics, and then we went through using social media for filtering information, for creating information, blogging, microblogging, how to be up to date through digital communication. Then we covered personal genomics and gene therapies, then the future of imaging health, then today it was big data in healthcare. Next week I'm going to talk about portable diagnostics and telemedicine. I will show them the gadgets I use myself, from a live core to Misfit Shine. And then there are still some lectures left about 3D printers, optogenetics, bionics, and the last one about robotics, artificial intelligence, and a big picture about the future of medicine. So that's the plan for the rest of the semester.
So it's quite cool. You build up from these like almost practical necessities and sort of move towards like larger themes of the future. So my next question is, what do you think is the most likely future for medicine?
Well, I'm always optimistic, and I always tell either medical professionals or patients that if we start preparing for these really exponential changes in medicine and healthcare, if we start preparing for these now, then we have quite a great chance of creating something amazing and positive. And by that I mean that patients should be able to measure anything about themselves without getting access to healthcare institutions, from ECG to genomic data at home. I believe that the best scenario in the future of healthcare involves a partnership between patients and doctors. Now we are not even trained to be like partners for our patients. I can say that loud. I believe that I was trained to become the semi-god for my patient. I would tell them what to do. I didn't want to become something like that. I wanted to become a partner. With my medical expertise and with their expertise about themselves, together we can make decisions by using more and more safe, efficient, disruptive technologies. So I'm pretty optimistic about the fact that we will get to this point, but the only way to do so is to start preparing now. And it means that we have to train future medical professionals about these. Not just about the technologies and the details of the technologies, but also about the concepts they will have to implement in their own medical practices very soon.
Yeah, so your course really, I think, is cool because it involves in training next generation of doctors. And I guess this question is sort of different in a sense. I just wanted to know your opinions on how the access to these technologies will be in the future. That's going to be one of the main themes of our student presentations today. So it's cool to get your perspective.
Well, I'm pretty much sure that it's going to be gradual. If you asked me 5 years ago, when would we see artificial intelligence in actual practical medical decision making? Well, I would have said in science fiction it's already there, but to see it in practice, well, it might take a few decades. And now, a few weeks ago, the MD Anderson Cancer Center actually purchased IBM Watson. So now they use it in practice. Therefore, I have to be cautious with my predictions. I never predict because I'm not a futurist, I'm a medical futurist. Therefore, I extrapolate from today's trends regarding the near future. But being quite an optimistic man, I have to say that to see medical robotics, artificial intelligence, smart prosthetics, portable diagnostics, embedded sensors in the body, it should not take more than 5 years. And we're gonna be excited, we're gonna be surprised first by the rate of change through which these will develop by time. Plus, even 2 years ago, if someone told you that with the prosthetics, the smart prosthetics, paralyzed people could walk again, it would have sounded like something from science fiction. And now Exobionics just create those prosthetics. I just had an interview with them from my new book about 2 hours ago, and it's just amazing what they are doing right now in practice. So the most surprising fact will not be the time when these arrive, but the fact that they will arrive much sooner than we would expect. And it's a bit frightening, to be honest, about that. But again, if we can prepare all the stakeholders of medicine, it should be a very positive and rewarding process.
Thank you.
Okay, Eric is going to come up and interrogate you now.
Wow. It's 10 p.m. here, so I'm absolutely refreshed.
So hi, I'm Eric. I was just wondering what would be the roles of doctors in the future? Because you're talking about portable diagnostics. So how would doctors help in a way to diagnose those people if they already have the portable diagnostics?
Well, it's a really complicated question for me at 10:20 p.m., but I'm going to try to give you a good answer. As almost all the things that we have to measure now in the clinical practice at hospitals, at laboratories, will be measured at home. Therefore, I think that the profession of being a medical professional will involve a new kind of job, and it's the digital health analyst, which means that we will have to acquire skills about informatics, about digital communication, medicine, obviously. So the profession of being a physician will dramatically change just because of these very simple reasons. And to be honest, I'm quite positive about that, because this one should again lead to the partnership between patients and doctors. But right now, if you think about the medical curriculum you are going through, I'm pretty sure that you don't feel like you are being prepared for the future, except for the course that you are doing right now. And for my absolute surprise, when I did quite massive research about such courses, the only thing I found was the course you are doing at University of Alberta and the one we are doing right now. And it's just insane. We should have similar courses worldwide to prepare everybody from India through Japan to Germany about what's coming next, because these students, you will use these technologies in your everyday professional lives, not in decades, but in 1, 2, 3 years' time. And as long as we cannot find a solution for that, we might be in trouble. That's my pessimistic point of view here.
Yeah, because like I feel like now people thinking this type of classes, it's kind of based on science fiction, so they don't really believe it. So how should we make it more accessible to everyone so that they actually buy into the preparation for the future?
That's a huge question. It's a great question. The way we can do that, I believe so, is not to seem to be like trend watchers. There are thousands of trend watchers worldwide who just share the news that they find about different technologies. It doesn't lead to anywhere. We need to add more things, more analysis, in-depth analysis, ethical, social, legal implications, because only by just directing people to the newest developments of these technologies, it won't help them. But by giving them, again, the skill sets that might help them make their own assumptions and own predictions, plus giving them something like a guide about these technologies and their potential outcomes and future consequences, well, that's going to make them believe that it's not science fiction, but they are facing these things every day, and they will face these things even more in the near future.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
So now Corey Fung is going to come and ask you some questions. He's actually working for me this summer, so I'll be seeing a lot of him.
Hi.
Hi.
So my first question was, within your course and Dr. Solez's course, we're touching on a lot of future technologies, but the thing is, we're only discussing them. Have you ever thought about any implications of maybe a lab type component that would allow students to get out into the real world and see how these things actually apply?
That's a great point. What I've been able to do with them is that in the lecture about telemedicine and mobile technologies, I actually bring them those gadgets I use myself. They can learn how to do an ECG with an iPhone smartphone bracket. They can use the Misfit Shine. I showed them in practice, because I've had 3 genomic tests myself. I showed them how these work actually in action. I have about 5 or 6 similar gadgets. I have Vital Connect that can, as a skin patch. It can measure about 1,000 parameters from ECG through blood pressure to body temperature. So in the mobile health section, they can try out these gadgets themselves. They can touch them and see how they work in action. But when you talk about prosthetics, when we talk about optogenetics and all these artificial intelligence, it's really hard to demonstrate. So I was lucky because I could participate in the Future Med course at the Singularity University last year. And it is kind of a lab that you were referring to. And in that lab, I could try myself the Da Vinci surgical robot. I could try myself how to do biotech inventions in a do-it-yourself way. So I could try out these gadgets, these solutions myself, but that laboratory at Singularity University is really unique, and it's hard to duplicate it somewhere else. But I believe that as long as we we have access to the experts behind these gadgets and technologies, we can transmit the same kinds of messages to students. But the best way would be to show them in action. You're absolutely right about that.
So my other question is, since this course covers so much stuff and touches on so many different fields, do you feel like it could almost become its own faculty?
Well, you just described my dream. That's the ultimate goal.
Okay.
Because I believe that you are right, and there's a reason to believe that it should be a real faculty. This topic, this conceptual area should get its own faculty. What I see now is that it's extremely difficult, even for the guest speakers who are experts in their own areas, to understand that the mission of this course is not to just demonstrate technologies, but to really transmit these skill sets. And I've been enjoying myself to see the struggle of these speakers when, again, experts in those areas came to the course, and they told me that it was quite a mission impossible for them to transmit their own expertise into something that students can use from now on. And this is why I believe that there is a reason that we should build a faculty around the topic, because it just transmits different skills compared to the individual lectures given out one by one. So it's a great point. That's the dream.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's it. That's the full interrogation by the students. It wasn't too tough, I guess.
I enjoyed it very much.
They're a very nice group of people. You know, the way we find more students is to get friends of the current students, and that works really well. You can imagine that if these were really evil, bad students, it would work very, very badly, but it actually works very well. So we already have students signed up for January 2015.
Wow.
But we don't have any students yet signed up for the fall of 2014. So I've given these guys posters for the course and asked them to do their own special brand of selling the course to try to get the best and the brightest students for the next time. So I look forward to staying in contact with you. I think there are lots of productive things we can do together, you and me personally, and our students and your students. So it's a very favorable thing. I know it seems stupid, but I was so excited when I found out that you were 29 to find out that your birthday is in November. So not only are you 29 now, but at the time of the fall course, you'll also still be that age, which seems kind of magical that you're not yet in your 30s. I'm sure you feel the same. So.
I feel old in many cases, so...
Yes, okay. There's one more question from Preeti Kadikat. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hi, Dr. Meskó.
Hi.
I'm curious about the legal framework that you have in your country that enables the use of these personal genomics and these special mobile health and telemedicine technologies.
I can summarize it quite easily for you. It's awful.
Okay.
Altogether, it's just awful.
Yeah.
The thing that the way I'm trying to walk on, the path I'm trying to walk on, is that I've submitted plenty of proposals to the government to change these things, because the reason why it's awful is not that they try to avoid the use of such technology, but because the reason that they have no idea how these work. Therefore, they have no really detailed legal restrictions, or at least clear guidelines about using them. Therefore, for the last few months, I've been submitting my proposals, but as I focus on global issues and not Hungarian ones, it's great if these go through, but I really want to help people worldwide, not just in one country. But based on my experience, the situation is quite similar in many other countries.
Yeah.
Therefore, if at least there could be one good example when such regulations could be submitted and then accepted by the government, it might create a good ground for other countries as well.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
I think in Canada the issue is we've got a socialized healthcare system. So when individuals go through the personal genomics and the direct-to-consumer testing, the physicians right now are not sufficiently trained to deal with the information. So then they go to the family doctor who's had like perhaps 1 week of genomics training in their medical school years ago, and they're just not able to handle it. And so there's just not enough knowledge disseminated in the public and in the medical field too.
The situation is absolutely the same with us. Socialized medicine, doctors are not trained to be able to at least answer such questions, not even deal with such technologies. Therefore, I think there are two stakeholders with great responsibility. The first is educators. That's why I believe that you're very lucky to have Kim Solez doing this course, because it's really hard to go through the quite traditional educational university-based boards and systems to get such a course accepted. Plus, the policymakers now have quite huge responsibility. I always tell them, and I'm really enjoying seeing their faces going red after that. But just to give you one example, a Dutch innovator friend of mine just got a new position in the Dutch government, and his position is called the Chief Imaginer Officer. So his role is to predict the future for the Dutch government, so they can now start doing things in practice. Well,
At least they're embracing it. That's a good sign.
That's amazing. That's one example of Vertibite. So it's a bad sign, but it's a good sign to have at least one. It's perspectives.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So it seems odd, but the course is taught in the room that's its farthest from the hospital and the medical side of the campus. So right after we finish here, we have to take the long trek to the other side of the campus for the student presentations. Okay, so Anson has some more questions for you.
Just one last question. Our courses here are very innovative. They're pushing the boundaries of our understanding. And I'm just wondering, like, especially back in your country, like, what kind of resistance have you faced, either from like your own faculty, the other departments in your university? How has it been?
I have another course, and I've been having that course about social media for 6 years. So I thought that as someone who has been teaching here for 6 years, I could easily submit a new course. I had no chance. Then I started collaborating with the scientific vice rector of the whole Semmelweis Medical School with 30,000 students, so really one of the top position people. And it took her about 5 months to put the course through the curriculum. And as we are just between us, I mean, it's like a family we are now. The reason why is that the board of the university thought that as this is a free course for students, it's not so good for the business model of the university. And as all my courses are for free and I teach at university for free, I was quite surprised by that. So we have to face that kind of obstacles in the road towards actually doing the course. But as there are plenty of people who really want to make something interesting and useful for students, I remain optimistic that we'll always be able to put these things through and make these reality.
Thank you.
So in the very beginning, in the fall of 2011, this was not an official university course at all. It was just a CME course, continuous professional learning course. But through the contacts that I've made over the years, I was able to get lots of my friends to come. So they were coming and sitting in the seats and listening and so on. So we had quite a dynamic mix of legitimate students and my friends showing up for the course. When we began as a university course in January 2012, there were 2 students taking the course, but usually there were like 7 or 8 or 9 people in the room. You couldn't really tell there were only 2 students because they sort of blended in with the others. So, and now everybody here is a legitimate registered student. That's gradually happened. But when the course started, I think most people would have, given up. that if you have no students or 2 students, how can you run a course like that? So it was one advantage that I had, and my friends who were coming really enjoyed it. This was an escape. This was something different from the rest of their work life, and they really had fun here, and they enjoyed watching themselves on video. So that's part of the sort of the past history and the way that we were able to successfully make this course grow. And I think most other people, when they found that virtually no one was signing up for it, they would have simply, abandoned it. So now it's an up and going concern. I think it will be successful for years and years now, but it did have a rather strange history. So we appreciate very much your talking to us so late in the evening.
My pleasure. I'm absolutely refreshed.
Yes, and it's a good start, and we've enjoyed the interaction with you and your students this term. I think it will only be better in the fall of 2014 and in the winter of 2015 and on and on. So we look forward to that. Now we have to pack up and move to the other side of campus for the student presentations for the rest of the day. Also, the logistics of the pizza. Right now, at this moment, the logistics of how I'm going to provide the pizza are completely chaotic. So that's about to solve that. So anyway, so thank you very much, and we look forward to talking with you the next time, and thanks very much for staying up late and doing this with us.
Absolutely, me too. Have a great day.
Okay,
Bye.
great. Bye-bye.